Alright, so now that we've covered the Terrans in part 1 of the StarCraft lore videos, let's cover the Zerg in the next one. My name is Nick. I like to talk about lore and fantasy stuff over here at the Lore Historians Pub. If you're into that sort of thing, hit the like, comment, subscribe, all that kind of good stuff. Let's get into this. So the Zerg's origin is a planet called Xeris, where we had these creatures called the Primal Zerg that were discovered by a race called the Xel'Naga. And the Xel'Naga was this ancient race that basically guided the Zerg on Xeris to become what we kind of know today. Now, some Primal Zerg have survived to this day. We'll get into that another time, maybe. But basically, the Zerg that we know today were also gifted with a central thought process called the Overmind. The Overmind is basically like a hive mind for them that kind of controls. Fast forward onto what is, StarCraft 1. Basically, the Overmind emerges with the Zerg after bringing in a bunch of different species together, taking over their DNA, bringing them into what is known as the Zerg now, and they run into the Terrans that we talked about on the last video. And this starts what's called the Great War, where the Terran Confederacy and what was later going to be the Dominion and the Protoss as well end up starting. Now again, trying to keep a lot of stuff really condensed into this video, and let me know if you guys want to hear more about the Zerg in the comment section, but essentially the Zerg fight the Protoss and the Terrans during the Great War, and it's followed up by another war called the Brood War following that one, where the Overmind had been defeated in the first war. You have a bunch of different factions starting to fight and try to become the next Overmind, and somebody, we'll talk about that in another video, ends up becoming the hive mind and the overlord later on. And it's somebody who was kind of guided into the direction of becoming the Overmind. Now, the events of Brood War basically leads up to Sarah Kerrigan, who is this Zerg human hybrid, taking over the Zerg, who basically was leaderless after the Overmind had been defeated in StarCraft. And she basically rallies around, she defeats a faction called the UED, which is the United Earth Directorate, who had come back to the Corpolo sector in Brood War, and she gets this really, really powerful power base. The end, though, she really just goes back to a planet called Char and holds the Zerg there until the events of StarCraft 2. Now, I'm not going to talk about StarCraft 2 just yet in this series. I want to kind of go through the basics of these factions first, but the Zerg really are like almost a Tyranid, hive, swarm faction. And if you are interested in kind of learning a little bit more about them, again, like, comment, all that kind of fun stuff. And if you're into fantasy, sci-fi lores, and all those kinds of things, this is a great place for you. Again, this is Nick with the Lore Historians Pub. We'll see you on the next one.